Hey guys. Okay, so in this week's video, we're going to cover off Brisbane City Council's car parking reductions, if you want to call it that. Now, this is a topic that I've been reluctant to talk about because I think honestly it has almost zero relevance to the jobs that we do and therefore our audience that watches these videos. However, there is so much misinformation flying around out there about this exact topic, and as a result, a lot of our audience, a lot of our clients are starting to naturally ask questions about it. So I thought, I think this week I need to talk about this topic so I can kind of kill off some of those porky pies that are flying around. So where do I start? To start talking about this topic, we probably need to go back in time. A bit of a history lesson, let's just say. So roughly back in 2015, 2017, something like that, Brisbane City Council did a massive public consultation process to try and work out how the public wanted our city to grow and evolve over time. So basically what the city shape would be going forwards. Now, what came out of that consultation process was the document that the industry called the blueprint. It was the dreaded blueprint. We all as an industry disliked this blueprint document because it represented so much change, and we're humans at the end of the day. We got comfortable in our change spot. So anyway, one of the findings that came out through this blueprint document was that the public were really, really peeved off by the lack of on-street parking, which was being generated or caused by the additional infill units. So basically all these units were popping up, there wasn't enough on-site car parking to meet the demand, the cars were spilling out to the street, it was causing congestion issues, it was peeving people off, people are complaining. Now, council as a result of that, and I will preface this by saying, just remember at this point in time, we actually had an oversupply of units. Like, it just blows my mind to think that within 10 years ago, we were looking at a point where we had an oversupply of units. So when you put it in that sort of frame and that, under that frame of reference, that's what I'm trying to say. If you put it under that frame of reference, then you can understand why council did make this change. So before people go and get their cranky pants on, let's take a step back and understand the situation that they were in at that point in time. So anyway, Brisbane City Council at that point in time went, yo, we're going to listen to the people. And I'm going to admit, back then I was like, oh, respect for council. Like, this is so progressive. We're listening to the community. Obviously, I've now seen the pitfalls of that play out in terms of the housing affordability crisis, and my personal opinion has changed a little bit. But back then, as a junior town planner, or more of a junior town planner, I was like, oh, I'm so impressed, council. You're listening to the people. Anyway, council listened and they went, we're going to increase the car parking rates. Now, I can't quite remember what they increased from and to. It was something like visitor car parking was 0.15 and it went up to 0.25, I think. But when I go back and edit this video, I'll actually include screenshots of the previous requirements and the new requirements, so you can hit pause on it and actually read it if you're interested. But long story short, they went, yo, we're going to listen to your people, we're going to increase the car parking rates, so they amended the planning scheme to do just that. Now, our jobs, our like townhouse jobs, unit jobs, literally dried up overnight. Now, there were some other external factors at play, but the number one cause of that was this increase in car parking rates. So we found the feedback we were getting from a lot of clients was financially, we just can't get it to stack up anymore. Like, we can't make the feasibilities work on these developments if we have to include that additional 1 bay, 2 bays, whatever it is. Keeping in mind, it's not just that car parking space. So it's not like a 2.4 by 5.4 teeny tiny little space. You've got to be able to maneuver into that bay within 3 turns, exit in a forward gear, etc., etc. So there's a lot of extra space in the background you've got to allow. Anyway, so this change came in. We saw personally as a business a massive drop off in that market. Like, we used to do so many. The standard thing was retain the pre-47 house at the front, do 2 units at the back, dual lock style, subdivide the front house off. Oh, that was such a cookie cutter thing. Everyone loved that jam. But yeah, you go throw an extra car park in there, totally mess with the FISO. So that whole market basically died overnight. So we had that. Fast forward a few years later, we start to hit this whole housing affordability crisis situation. Like I said, just absolutely blows my mind that we can go from one extreme to the other, just literally overnight kind of things in world terms. But anyway, fast forward, I think it was the Property Council of Australia, don't quote me on it, but some big organisation in this space did a study. And what they found is that each additional car park, and I don't know what the parameters were for defining this, whether it was inner city, outer suburbs, basement, above ground, whatever, but just generally speaking, every single additional car park on a development site when it came to units added $100,000 to the construction cost and therefore the on-sale price to the public. So council, they obviously sat down and listened to this and they went, okay, an extra $100,000 per unit just for an extra itty bitty car park. Well, actually, now I think about it, it wouldn't be 1 per unit. It's probably less. Anyway, side tangent. Let's not go down that rabbit hole. basically council went, yeah, we can see that's a contributing factor to the housing affordability crisis, or just generally the affordability of units and therefore the crisis. So we're going to start to do something about it. So I think it was like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that. Council went, okay, one of the initiatives we're going to look at here is reducing the number of car parking requirements, or car parks required. Now, I do this because I hate the fact that it's been branded under reducing car parking requirements, because, I mean, technically in certain areas it does reduce the car parking requirements, but it just leads to this misconception that across the board councils reduce the car parking requirements for units, and that is just simply not the case. So what have they actually done? Well, fast forward to basically, I think it was March this year, they adopted the changes. What did the adopted changes do? Well, quite simply, they do one itty bitty little thing. You have the city core, then you have the city frame, and then you have the rest of Brisbane. Prior to this change, and still today, city core has a maximum car parking rate, city frame has a reduced minimum car parking rate, and then the rest of the city is the standard car parking rates. So you've basically got 3 tiers to the parking rate system. All they did was basically increase the size of the city core a little bit, increase the size of the city frame a little bit. That's it. No changes to the car parking numbers. So yes, technically, if you previously were counted in the outer normal suburban areas and you're now in that frame, you've got a slightly reduced car parking rate. So yeah, it is kind of a reduction in car parking, but it's not a reduction in car parking. Like, yeah, so I'm getting so many people going, oh my goodness, the development world, we can now start doing all these extra units because the car parking requirements have been relaxed. And I'm like, it only applies to an itty bitty portion of the site. So again, when I'm going back and editing this video, I'll include the 2 images, the before and the after of the city core city frame map. And you'll see that it's not actually that much of a change. I mean, if you're the big end of town and you're doing high rises and you're doing these big boy developments, yes, for you, it's going to change the game. Us, our end of the spectrum, our clients, yeah, you're not developing in those areas. Let's be real. If you've actually got property in those areas that could be developed for a smaller scale project, it's a house renovation. The land is not going to stack up for units type thing. So yes, there has been some changes in this space, but it's not as drastic and as far reaching as everyone seems to perceive that it is. Now, there was another point I was going to make here, and I've totally spaced on what it was. Oh, that's right. I was going to say, where does this lead from here? I, up until now, have probably been incorrectly, let's just say, going around saying to people that I thought maybe this was a stepping stone towards reversing and I hate saying this because it sounds negative and it's not how I intended, but it's just the way that I can think of to describe it, but the damage done by the 2018-19 planning scheme changes. I thought this was a stepping stone. I thought, okay, councils learnt that they can't just go and introduce change. They need to get the community buy-in. They need to ease the community into it. Otherwise, there's backlash, and otherwise they're forced into a corner to make changes, blah, 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 blah. So I thought, okay, this is a stepping stone. We're going to slowly see additional changes roll out in the years to come. So maybe some of that stuff that was, well, that, again, I don't like the damage that was done in 2019 would be done over time, etc., etc. So maybe this is just the first step in the journey. However, I have since changed my tune. So what I've come to realize is, yeah, when I've actually sat down and looked at the map, and when I've actually looked at what the car parking requirements are and stuff, I'm like, it's too small a change to really represent the first step in a longer journey. So, yeah, I don't think that's quite going to happen. I think I'm going to have to eat my words and eat some humble pie there and say I was wrong on that prediction. And it's so funny because I caught up with another town planner the other day and we were talking about all this stuff, and I said, oh, this is my prediction. And she looked at me and went, what? And now after I've thought about it a little bit more, I went, yeah, she's probably right, damn it. Don't you hate that? So yeah, anyway, that I think covers off everything I want to talk about today. Long story short, the message that I want to get across is there has been no citywide, just broad brush reduction in car parking requirements. All they've done is move the boundaries on that map a little bit, which means some of the high-rise sort of inner city properties now can actually have reduced car parking rates, but that does not have any impact on our end of town and the space that we operate in. Hopefully that explains it for you guys. Okay, that covers off everything I want to talk about today. As I always like to say, until next time, thanks for watching.
For all you red tape lovers out there, I have one thing to say. Well, no, actually, I've got 3. Number 1, the advice provided in these videos is general in nature. It's not site specific. You would be a silly Billy to go and make financial decisions based on this advice without first checking with the town planner. Don't be a silly Billy. Number 2, Brisbane town planning is in no way linked to Brisbane City Council. The views expressed in these videos are my own, not council's. So if you don't like them, blame me, not council. Number 3. What was my number 3? Oh yeah. The views expressed in these videos are accurate at the time of recording. If you're watching this video back 10 years from now, the views may not be so accurate. That's all.